Colorado journalism and 9 News have lost a towering figure. Fred Brown, a fixture at the state capitol, and 9 News legal analyst, died last week after suffering a stroke.
So in addition to 4 decades at the Denver Post, he was active until his death in organizations that fight for government transparency and journalistic excellence. Kevin Vaughn from 9 News Investigates has this appreciation.
I have appreciated the candor with which most of you have dealt with the press.
It was a different time in political news coverage.
It's been a privilege and a pleasure, and I won't be gone too far, so you haven't seen the last of me. Thanks again.
And Fred Brown, who retired that day in 2002 after 39 years at the Denver Post, was a different kind of political reporter.
It's weird when you think that a competitor technically could be a mentor, and yet that's what Fred was for me.
When Adam Schrager arrived at 9 News to cover politics in 1999,
the state's new Democratic majority.
One of his first moves was to introduce himself to Brown. Another was convincing him to join 9 News as a political analyst.
He did everything the way I would argue you should. He covered politics the way you should cover politics.
Fred Brown died last week after suffering a stroke in mid-March. He was perhaps best known from his decades at the Denver Post, where the Capitol Press Corps took the work and the fun seriously. Like this day, lunch with then-Governor Dick Lamb.
He was more than willing to ask tough questions. And be a tough reporter, if you will. But Fred always believed in giving people the opportunity to answer.
Asking questions like this one in 1973, after a new law required lobbyists to disclose their spending. Why was a group of Colorado liquor distributors shelling out $140 a month to keep the fridge in the Capitol press room stocked with cold beer? It might have been then that he earned the nickname that would become his email handle, Ethical Fred.
He would always say, if both sides are angry with your story, then as journalists, we always think that we've done something right. Fred's like, have we ever stepped back to think maybe they're the ones that are right and we've actually done something wrong? That was Fred Brown.
Brown was initially hesitant to talk politics on TV.
There's going to be more attack advertising. You hear this over and over again. We don't like to do it, but it works.
Hesitant, though he quickly proved to be a natural.
This time, the Democrats are really under the gun to do something. They've said it's going to be different with us in control, and they've got to prove it.
The bottom line, Brown saw himself as a public servant, something Schrager identified with.
The more journalists who actually believed that what we were doing was a public service and saw our jobs that way and acted accordingly, like Fred Brown, we'd be in a better place.
Fred Brown's influence went far beyond his work as a reporter and commentator. He devoted nearly 40 years to the Colorado Freedom of Information Coalition, which fights for transparency in government. He was board secretary at the time of his death. He was also very involved in the Society of Professional Journalists, serving as both president to the Colorado chapter and as president of the national organization. And he taught media ethics at the University of Denver for 15 years.
Really, it left such an important mark. It makes you hearken back to a different time in politics where you dug deep and you heard everybody and stopped to listen without all the vitriol and everything else. And he was so thoughtful. But he also was involved in the press club. He did much more than just one thing.
Yeah, at the Denver Press Club, he was president for a while and was very involved there. And he was honored in 2 ways, which is pretty rare. He's a member of the club's Hall of Fame, which recognizes contribution to journalism in the community. And he has a caricature in the dining room, which recognizes, his work on behalf of the club and its scholarship program and so forth. So double honors there. And one quick story, I worked at the Rocky Mountain News for over a decade, last great newspaper war in America. And there was a lot of bad feelings between people at the Post and the Rocky over time. Fred Brown was one of those people that everybody at the Rocky absolutely respected and admired and loved.
Total respect. That's so cool. Yeah. And love hearing from Adam Schrager. We miss him.
Yeah.
He's doing great. But he was that guy too. And it's so nice when you talk to somebody about their mentor.
Yeah, and that was what Adam said. He came to town, he started talking to all these people, and then all of a sudden he was like, wait, this guy's my competitor. He's being helpful to me. What's going on here?
At the end of the day in our business, if you've dedicated your whole life to journalism and people call you ethical, that's your tagline, that's your handle, then you've done something really right in our profession.
You've hit it.
Yep.
Kevin, thank you.
Bet.